All right, hey everybody, this is Niall from Cape Town, South Africa, and you're listening to the 22 For You podcast, a show that dives deep into different topics, stories, and opinions of experts and friends for people who love learning while laughing. So, today we're talking about business life and different philosophies with Israel, an industrial psychologist with over a decade of experience. This is the man, and we'll discuss everything there is to know about dealing with people who are high up in the food chain and some of the failures he's had throughout his life and see where we can learn from that. So, thanks for joining. How are you, Israel?
I'm very well, Nadia, and yourself?
Awesome, man.
Thank you for the invite, man. I'm looking forward to our discussion.
We were having a whole discussion before this, which is pretty cool, about kind of where you see your kids and how you see yourself in them. But I wanted to find out, what do you do and how did you get to where you are now?
Look, I'm a corporate psychologist, industrial psychologist.
There we go.
I went to Rhodes University. I was always an overachiever, so I walked out there after 4 years with a double honors degree in industrial psychology and industrial sociology.
Jeez.
And inevitably, I was poached by Unilever in their graduate program, and I've never looked back ever since. My playing field has been in the corporate space, but in different capacities as well. I've been a consultant, i.e., stepping out the corporate, but consulting back into corporate. I'm back working with corporates again, and so it's been a very interesting journey. That's a long and short of it, yeah?
Yeah. I mean, well, what made you choose a career? Was it because you kind of were really good at it and you went straight into, cool, I've got this great opportunity from Unilever, so I'm just going to go with it, and then it kind of just...
No. You know what? Like, it's... Life is not like that. I think with our linear mind, we think like cause and effect, i.e., I did this and you follow this rabbit line. That's false. I was always good with people. If there was one thing I knew I was good at. In fact, if you'd asked me at 15, I would have thought of myself as like a pastor.
Okay.
If I was born in the 1800s, I'd probably say a sangoma. You know, like just people dynamics. So I always knew I was good with people. I had no idea of careers.
Really?
Yeah, I'm from the old South Africa. Remember, I was the experimental generation. So the idea of careers, jobs, dude, I grew up lifting refrigerators with my dad's business, you know?
Yes.
So even in high school, funny enough, if you'd walked to me in high school, I didn't have a career. I didn't, you know? So it only crystallized, and I like that word. It came together at university because only there you then approach around what subjects and what are then the potential jobs. Mm-hmm. But even then, I did not enter psychology with a job in mind. It was something that I just wanted to sharpen because I knew I was good at it. And as the river of life flows, the first people that came to our university saying we want young, smart graduates, hope preferably brown,
Nigerian,
right? Nigerian, yeah, I'm teasing. And they inevitably, caught up with me. I was doing my undergrad. I said to them, listen, I want to do a postgrad. And they said, we wait.
Wow.
Go do your postgrad, and inevitably then, that's how I guess the flow of life happened with me. So it wasn't a grand plan that I ticked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and ended up doing the stuff, but it found me. That's a nice
I hear
one.
you. Because we've had a conversation before. I don't know if you remember, it was a year ago.
Yeah.
And we're sitting at Beach Bar or whatever it was. And then we had a discussion. I was like, cool, what about this career? What about that? And you stopped me every time. I was like, what can you tell me about this? What can you tell me? Because, I was interested in the same thing that you do, industrial psychology. And you said, You said one thing, and it always sticks with me.
Yeah.
You said, don't worry, listen to your heart.
That's it.
Knows.
That's it.
And then I kept on going like, no, but you don't understand. Like, you're like,
That's it.
No,
That's it.
You know.
Look, I wish sometimes my dad would have had these conversations with me growing up. There are things that belong to the heart and there are things that belong to the head. We err when we think the head is the answer for everything. There are things that belong to the heart that will find you because the heart has got its own way of maneuvering.
Yes.
And sometimes it's It's like a river, right? Let go. Just because you're not rowing, or the river will still take you somewhere.
Yes, that's true.
And that's a power of this thing. Trust. And yes, I'm not saying no to the head. It definitely has a role to play. But I think when we over-index on the head and mute our heart, we end in different destinations, you know. And
so what do you think about when someone goes, you know, you got to get really good at this one thing, you really got to, you know, do this thing, but then they also say if you let go and you let life decide where you go, it normally is viewed as something quite negative, because then, you know, they say never let life take, you know, don't do something and then let life decide what you do.
Daily, it's a both and. I don't think they are competing. I think they're complementing.
Okay.
It's when you lean. We like pitting things against each other, right?
Yeah.
Saying either or. So our dual mind is always saying wrong or right, either or.
Yes.
And I guess that's the exchange between the heart and the head. Is we think either if I follow this guy, yes, I might end up in a place I don't want to. That's your brain talking.
Yes.
Because it's thinking survival. And it's saying, I don't trust the heart to land us at a destination that we'd want to, or I'd agree with. And the heart it functions totally different. And I'm saying the play between the two is what we must look at, as opposed to either or.
So how do you get good at looking at that? How do you become good at managing or navigating that? Or is there any tips that you could do to get better, or do you just go through life and then you'll get better because you learn through different experiences?
This is, and you'll often hear me say this is the work. Every man and every woman has to walk through. And there is no science to it. It's an art to it. And that art belongs only to you.
Yes.
And that's why I'm quite very careful to not make my experiences the pathway for everybody. And what I can encourage you on is go on the journey. Do take the risks. Make the mistakes. Because part of the mistakes are actually part of the journey.
Yes.
Because I think one of the things that we need to demystify is this notion that if there's no problem, everything is good. And I'm going, no. And as a parent, that's what I'm struggling with right now is, I don't know if you guys have ever heard the saying that tough times make strong men.
Yes.
You remember that one?
Yeah.
Maybe for the listeners or the viewers. Yes. Tough times make strong men make good times, but good times make weak men. And weak men inevitably make tough times.
Yes.
And so part of me is going, whilst we are leading people, raising children, we often think of how do I make their path smoother, i.e. less challenges.
Right.
What we then construct is an easy environment which makes weak people. And inevitably, the very thing that they're running away from becomes the very destination that they end up in.
Wow.
And so part of the journey or the heart's leading, some are walls that you need to climb. So just because you need to hit a wall doesn't mean you're going in the wrong way. And that's the art of the heart. There's a song in that. The art of the heart, right? In the sense that it knows the capabilities you need to build in order to get there. And part of the capabilities are built with tough times. It's gym. Lift heavier weight to get stronger.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Which is interesting because, you know, the next question I was actually going to ask you to this podcast was, what would you tell your 18-year-old self, what advice would you give, just one piece of advice to that 18-year-old self to make, if you could go back in time and just say, hey, dude, listen up, this is what I recommend you do.
Yeah.
But from what you're saying, it's almost like you wouldn't do that.
I wouldn't. Because you got to trust the process.
Yeah.
Or, whenever I have not an altercation, or I always say, all our wrong decisions have led us right here. Were they wrong then? Because here we are talking.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we almost assume that there's this path without any rough or like walls or pitfalls to fall in that will lead you to this very destination. And when you look back, I have another saying which says, life is lived forwards but understood backwards. So it's only when you look back that you realize, oh shit, I've gone so far and it works. And no, sorry, maybe we're not meant to swear.
Oh, that's what we can.
Sorry,
No.
It's expression. It's not vulgar. And so when I look back, if I would say to myself, trust the process. Trust the process. I think we were chatting before we started recording. I was never a fearful person, but whilst I'm not fearful, doesn't mean I'm adventurous, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I'm not necessarily moving to the other extreme because I'm not in the other one. And so I was never fearful during my life journey. I think I was confident of the things I knew. Now looking back, I would say to myself, not everything you know is everything there is to know.
Just you got a book of sayings.
No,
there.
but these are life experiences. They often capture the essence of the matter.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
which is what I'm really trying to land. And that's one of the things that I think I would say back to myself. It's a hell of a lot. Well done. Trust it. But that's not all there is to know.
Right.
And I'm not saying that to destabilize you from what you do know. But trust the process.
And is that how you kind of navigating with? Because I know you have a child, or you got a few children's, and they're all sons.
Yeah.
And one of them you say is quite similar to you, and he's now moving into adulthood, and he's kind of becoming of age to become a man at some point soon. So, like looking back and now having to deal with that, how are you handling it? How are you dealing with it?
Nali, I guess it leads to my first point that I made. It's like we all have our paths, and so for me that's a very sacred thing. And so why I don't want to copy and paste my life onto my boy, and as much as we are similar, he might choose differently to me. But again, the sums of our wrongs will bring us right where we need to be. And that's not to say I do not guide him or lead him. That is to say, I give him the options and I encourage him which one I'd prefer, but if his heart is leading him somewhere else, I've got to respect that and support him in that very decision that I don't agree with as well. And so, so one of the things that he's done, he for some reason he likes math. Like there's not a math bone in my body. And I said to him, now we were talking his results and blah, 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 blah. I said to him, dude, between your mother and I, there is not a bone of math. How you want math just actually surprises me. However, if that's what you feel you should do, I will get every best teacher that you will find. Now, would I make the same decision? Probably not. Yeah. I'll go geography, biology, I don't care. But he wants to go, and so part of me now is going, hey, suggest and support whatever he decides. And that's for me is the sacred path that all of us have to take, and how do I support and how do we make him the best at that, as opposed to doing what I want, if you understand what I mean. Yeah.
Sure. This is a lot. Yeah. I mean, it's very interesting stuff, eh?
Yeah.
And I think it's
a different guy.
yeah, but it's also like, I mean, a lot of the time I see parents these days, they almost put doubt into the child because what they say, it's like, don't do that. You're not going to be suited for that. Yeah. But they start at such a young age, and that cycle just continues.
The story I always tell is that I arrived early at one of my functions, and I sat by the pool. I was preparing my mind, and I watched this mother walking across. And as she was walking across, she was saying to her son, "Don't do this. Be careful of that." And I guess in her mind, what she's doing is being protective, right? And what she may have missed in that dialogue is the fact that the child is now only looking at potential problems as opposed to where to look, as in where do I want to go. And so we do get negatively skewed in our perceptions because of that, especially from a young age. I think women have that more so than boys, because boys are allowed a little bit more leeway. But in life, there is something to be said about be more mindful about the things you want and the things that you don't want. And focus your energies there, as opposed to, I'm scared this might happen. I'm scared,
Now it's like
exactly.
every time I'm thinking about this is going to go wrong, this is going to go wrong. I shouldn't do this, and then you just go down this loop, right?
And then we then have a life that is looking at the probabilities of problems rather than the probability of opportunities. And that's a lens you decide.
It's like abundance and scarcity,
that's it.
Right?
That's it. It's either
a life of scarcity. This is the problems. This is the issues. And it's crazy because that perspective is so different. But people can live in that, like,
right next to each other. Same resources, when you put on a lens of scarcity, you engage with the same resource differently than someone who's saying, how do I expand it?
Yes.
How do I make it more? How do I... And there are contexts for both. But I guess what I always look to guard against is how not to just wear one lens all the time, but balanced. Head and heart. That's the...
This goes back to the same thing you're saying. It's the head and heart.
Head and heart. You know, let it listen to it. And I guess to your first question, which is around doing the work, learn to differentiate what is your heart and what belongs to your head. I don't think we do enough of that. I think, geez, we are not spoon-fed. It's more like this hose pipe that is just drilled into us via TV. That all of us are sitting there, mouths open, eyes, and we just intake. And there's nothing wrong with what we are. Not that there's a lot wrong. There's nothing wrong with TV, but if you do not have the tools then to differentiate between what I'm engaging and consuming, you then start becoming the very representation of that.
So do you see that a lot, maybe, I don't know, with your kids or with the younger generation? Because, I mean, a lot of people are engaging on social media 5-6 hours a day, and that's like a normal thing, right? Like, it's normal to go on Instagram and just scroll, or TikTok. So, you know, does that shape people differently at the younger generation?
100%.
And how do you think that will be? So what do you think this generation... Where do you think they're going with that?
Look, here's the thing for me. I don't want to sound like my dad, right? Back in our day. Times change. And so one of the things, when you look back in your life and you look at yourself today, there's change. And so if there's one thing that you cannot stop, is the change itself. How then do you prepare yourself for that change? How do you engage that change? That's basically the art of what I do in corporate.
Yes.
Personally and obviously organizationally. So there are inevitabilities of change, just like the social media. Now that's got its positives and negatives. I'm not there, meaning that's not my makeup. My foundations are built, my building is built.
I'm actually trying to search you. And
you can't search me.
You can't.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
Because I've made it a point that that's not the space I want to engage in.
Yeah.
I don't think the best of me will be found there. Now, some people will be. I'm not an anti-social media. But for me personally, it's a no. For my boys, it'd probably be a yes, because that's what they've grown up with, right? But there is a smarter way of being. I do not think you become a better person by sitting 6 hours scrolling. No, you don't. You can't be. Are there things to learn from? Yes, there are. But again, balance.
Balance, heart and mind.
Yeah,
it's all
balance.
The same.
Got to do the work.
Yeah,
you got to do the work.
And you know, your biggest failure, like what was a point in your life where you really felt you hit rock bottom, if you ever have?
I have. There is no story to tell if you haven't hit rock bottom.
Yeah. So, I mean, tell us a bit.
So, dude, I was earlier on, I think I was in my mid-20s, BE deal, you know, I've got corporate experience. I was a father of a son. Emmanuel was probably, I remember crying, bro. So anyway, I leave work, I pursue this dream, and my partners pull out of me.
Jeez.
Literally with nothing. When I say nothing, nothing. And the image I have of the rock bottom, I remember coming home one day and my son, his head could be on my palm and his feet could be on my elbow. And so I could literally hold him like this. And I remember in tears just looking at him, saying to him, "You're the only thing that's working for me right now." Jeez. That was my rock bottom.
Wow.
Where you have to ask friends to loan you a car so you can drive to work.
Yes.
Yeah. So I've literally rebuilt my life from 28, 29. Because I mean, dude, I know the life of switching your phones off because people are phoning you wanting money because you owe them.
Wow.
And work through that. It definitely that brought out the beast in me. If I can call it that.
You talk about this too with your different philosophies, all the different sides to a person.
Yeah.
And so tell us about this beast.
So look, before I go there, we are never one thing. Let's get that out of the way.
Yes.
You know, you're a son, you're a brother, you're a mate, you're an uncle. You know, there are many, and how you show up in those different versions of you. Right? Different pressure, different context. So obviously, when you are in the doldrums, which I was, and I don't mean that there's a worse kind. You know,
Yes.
Getting more personal, my ex-wife had a miscarriage.
Wow.
We couldn't pay for the DNC to.
No
Well,
way.
yeah, that's just how bad it was.
No ways.
N- You know, when you're that vulnerable,
Yeah.
the beast comes out, which means how do you get that side of you that needs to climb the wall? Why? Because crying and wailing and woe is me, but there are plenty of those. And I was never the kind of guy who wanted to get a handout, you know?
Yes.
So I rolled up my sleeves.
And
Like
you
I
just-
know how to, and the beauty of that now is like when you meet that version of yourself, you start understanding that everything you need in life is within you. There was no helicopter app that I had to drop in order to be, you know,
Yes.
there's nothing external. Everything, it unearthed within me because I realized a task at hand. I realized there's rent to pay, there's medical bills, there's all, and did I have some help? Yes, I did. Loans, not like $5 million
Yes.
loans like Donald Trump, you know?
DJ.
Exactly, right? But just to hold you up,
Yeah.
so that for that season you are able to push through, and yeah, that's the beast.
So the beast was having a kid like a motivation. Did that unlock the beast?
Oh yeah. So for me, I've always had I always say an overinflated sense of responsibility.
Yes.
So, and that's what it does. I think when people when you live in a space of service to others, the others will always want more, and so more of you needs to unearth.
Yes.
And so, if I been alone, it would probably been easier to crumble. But having a wife and a kid and responsibility, that unleashed the beast who had to roar and be king of the jungle in order to rule and get his own pound of flesh
Yes.
back, you know. And funny enough, that journey was only a year,
There we go.
but it was beast mode for
Right.
a year.
Was it just?
It wasn't like that beast mode. You hold yourself to a higher standard in
Yeah.
order for you to rise. You dig deep when you are tired. You remind yourself, why did I start? Are you gonna go back there? No, I don't. Okay, well, do the things that need to be done. And okay. And sometimes you cry. It's not all smiles, you know. It's not happy, no drinks with the mates at the bar. You
Yes.
can't afford that, you know. And so for a good year, I gave it a good slog. And there are lessons to learn in that as
Yeah.
well, you know, that your life can change. There is no permanent end state, guys, except for death in this realm. That's it. And so if you want to change it, you can.
That's
honestly.
so true. Right? Everyone thinks that they're destined for one
That's it.
thing, but it's
No. They have to agree that that's it,
Yeah.
and therefore it will be because they've
Yes.
agreed, not because it is. If they want to change it, they could.
yeah.
That's how I live it. Sound like
It's-
guys on these you can on steroids
Yeah,
kind of guy.
no, but I think everyone can connect to that part where
Yeah.
they do have to roll up their sleeves and
That's
get
it,
going.
yeah.
And I think everyone has that beast inside, as you mentioned, but some don't want to let it out or afraid to let it out, which we've mentioned
Yes.
before, because it is saying no to the friends.
That's
It
it.
is.
Yeah.
Nothing else matters but this.
That's
right?
it.
It's the sacrificing of
You have
everything
to.
else
That's it.
to make things happen.
That's
right?
it.
To make shit happen.
That's it.
Um,
It's a beautiful part
Yeah.
because when I bring it back to where I'm at, I understand responsibility. If you are a CEO running a 2 billion rand business, pressures that you have to make, you got to bring out the beast. I've walked with that beast, and on occasion it had to come out. But you know, as men, man, we have that ability. Now it's obviously it's got to be under control, because not everything requires a beast. For me, it was a year where I had to become that, and post that there've been circumstances where I've had to, hey, wake
let
up,
it out a bit.
let it out a bit,
Yeah.
bit in order to. But it's momentarily, you know. But the ability to do that, and knowing that you've got it, and that's your disposal too,
Yes.
That's the thing.
Does it provide confidence, knowing that you can go back to the
Yeah.
beast and go, cool, let's go again?
No, but that's why I said that
Yeah.
everything you need is within you. I have the ingredients within me to do the things I want to. Do I know everything? No, I don't. But I know that I've got the ingredients to learn, firstly, and number two, to execute on what I've learned. Is it easy? No, it isn't. I think that's what everybody, I'm helping a guy who's running a business and and he's going through a tough time. And I said to him, when you make it, everybody will think that it just happened.
Yes.
That's one of the things I don't like about these testimonies that people give, is the fact that nobody takes time to explain the journey. And now you only come out when you're on top.
People only go,
I know, wow, what did you do?
Yeah.
These 3 points. I'm like, bullshit, doesn't work like that. And all of us, if I live like Bill Gates, and I'm like, dude, he had his own walk, he hasn't shared it with you.
Yes.
Steve Jobs had his own journey, he hasn't shared it with you, But you can't run away from the work, mate.
So is that if you could underline one thing for the younger generation to do more of, what would that be? Because to me it sounds like do the work.
Do the work, and I think we need to unpack what we mean by the work. That work for me is understanding, what do I have in my toolbox? As that person, as Israel, this is what I'm good at. And you've got to be brutally honest.
Right.
And part of being the beast is not letting yourself get away with stuff.
Yes.
Because we can mansplain ourselves away. We can excuse our things away. No. Oh, woe is me. No, that's not what I'm talking about. Being honest about even the things that you've cheated yourself out of.
Yes.
Be honest about that. If there's one person at least that deserves that honesty, is yourself to yourself. You might not share with others, but in there, you must know, right? And then you start saying to yourself, how do I become better at this? Now that's work.
Okay.
How do I hone? You hear 10,000 hours. I forget his name, the Jamaican American guy.
Yeah, he does the 10,000
The
hours
10,000.
to become a master at
That's it. And I'm not saying we all have to do 10,000 hours, but read a book, do something in order to be better. I think I've shared this with you. I don't believe in perfection. I believe in progress. And let your yesterdays be better. Let your todays be better than your yesterdays. That's the improvement. And just working at it.
Keep going.
And don't dilute it by having too many. Pick 5, stay on the 5, and drive. That's it.
So what do you mean by the 5? Is it like
So I'm
5?
saying, if you've identified in your toolbox those abilities, that these are the 5 things that are my core strength.
Yes.
I can do others, but they are not as strong as these 5.
Yes.
Just drive those.
So do you think you can do 5 different things, but work on them all the time? Or do you feel like you have to even make it 1 or 2? Because I think the problem is, not a problem, but I noticed with myself too, the challenge is going, which is that one? Because then you go, cool, this is the one, but then you go, but what about that one? What about those 5 other ones that I think I could be great at? And then you've made the decision not to do any because you're still trying to decide.
Analysis, paralysis, I get it. Look, that's a head and heart decision.
Okay.
Your head will always tell you of the options and the possibilities, right? Here's what I've learned, and this is me looking back. There are certain things that I let go when I was younger, but they're still in the toolbox that have made me better today. Whilst I've never pursued them, I've pursued this. For me, I was a people person, psychology. This is my contribute. This is my fingerprint to the world.
Yes.
Is it the only thing I can do in Ali? No. I could have been a marketing person. I could have been a musician. I could have been a painter. I could have been many other things because I can still do those things today.
Yeah.
Those things now enable me to do my current vocation even better because I have a breadth of experience in other things. See, when you over-index in one aspect, you become out of balance.
So for everyone watching, it's basically what you deciding and being good at all the other things is good, but now deciding on one of them will be great.
Yeah.
And that other that you
go.
have,
That's
so it's
it.
not gone to waste now
No.
trying to go through all these different things.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of will support you and help you now for when you do choose that
That's
one
it.
thing that's...
So one of the things when I used to work at Unilever is we used to hire smart people, all right? So we used to say, when you got the character, hire you because skill I can teach. So we started hiring engineers into marketing.
Wow.
because they have an engineering brain, and now they're putting a science to an art.
Sure.
It added a dimension and a facet
Really?
that we would never had. Why?
Yes.
Because it was always a creative's space. And suddenly this guy comes in and goes, no, you gotta, there's a friend of mine who's a designer. In my life, to be artistic, I have to be inspired. So I've got to be like in the mood. I can do my stuff. She's got this incredible ability that she's put a science to creative. It fascinates me because her mind is like that. But she is now using all the other facets to enable and bring uniqueness what she's chosen to what she's chosen. And so it's not a waste. Though your brain interprets it as a waste, I don't think it is, because it allows you just to, your spice. Because your spice is everything else.
Yes.
That
makes you unique.
That's it. So never discount those things.
Never discount your spice.
Yeah. There you go. I like that. See, you're also starting to have sayings.
Yeah, there we go. I think it's... well, thanks to you. I've also got a few different questions that are a bit off the wall.
And that's great.
Which I think would be pretty cool to ask you.
Yeah.
If you could have coffee with any historical figure, who would you choose?
Wow.
I make you think now.
Which is great,
Yeah.
because there are so many, right? And I'm trying to. I would like to sit down. Either Jesus, Buddha, and just
Okay.
talk.
Yes.
And,
Yeah, that's exactly
Yeah.
it. And just talk.
just talk. Why this? Why
Yeah.
and engage as to. That's a kind of a figure,
Yes,
not
yeah.
So yeah.
All right. If you won like 100 million rand tomorrow, what would you spend it on?
Give it away.
If you had to write a book tomorrow, what would you write about?
There's a friend of mine, The Gospel According to Israel. That's the name of the book. No, honestly, so because whenever we talk, I drop these lines. She goes, "You should write a book." I'm like, "Really?" She says, "Yeah." In fact, I've been keeping notes and everything I've been saying.
Yes.
I said, "What should you call it?" She goes, "The Gospel According to Israel." I was like, "Okay, I think that'll work." That's
coming soon. The Gospel According to Israel.
Yeah, The Gospel According to Israel.
Wow. All right. And what is your biggest pet peeve? Maybe that you see within
mate.
someone else, or something.
I don't
someone
have.
does.
I'm not given to those things.
Even if someone's wasting their potential, like that doesn't.
Yeah,
isn't that a pet peeve,
yeah. Look, it's not a pet peeve. It's I'm not easily irritated. You have to I want to irritate you. Let me try and irritate you, and if you're responding,
Yeah.
So I'm not that finicky as a person. But yes, I do have boundaries. So yeah, I think the hardest thing for me to see a talented, gifted person who's lazy. I've seen too many of that. And they think their charm will take them to the next stage. And I'm going, no, it brought you this far. You got to dig deeper now.
Yes.
Why? Because all of us have got it. So that for me, I guess in the space that I work in, the thing that I'm like, dude, you have all the ingredients. But now I've got to put you in the oven.
Yeah.
And put a little bit of fire so you can rise.
Yes.
But you're running away from it.
Okay.
Because you think you can,
And those people that you naturally see are naturally a bit lazy because they have these charms or these gifts. Have you seen them change and go, cool, now I'm going to dig deeper?
Yeah. There is a lot. Look, it's a hard thing. Why? Because you adopt a way of being that makes you successful. But you assume that success will follow you all your life. It is when it runs out and you go, what's wrong? And you're like, it's not working. I'm like, yeah, you've outgrown it. Okay, great. The level that you're in is requiring you to do the work. And I've seen guys who switch on and then you can see the exponential growth. I've seen guys who regress because they are bemoaning and crying about that which is not working and they haven't switched on to the I always believe that there's always a better version of you. Even now, I'm definitely not the definite article. I'm not finished. There is a version of me. If we rerun this in 2 years' time, I'll say different things because I believe I would have grown.
Yes.
And hopefully I'll look back at this session and be like, oh, you didn't know that, No, because that's how life is.
Yes.
It's like when you're looking at your grade 1 version of yourself. Some of the things you cringe because you know better now. I will know better. And that's why I don't hold everything that I know there's more to know. Yeah. With a tight hand. It's an open hand. Because you can't learn and grasp new things with a closed hand. You've got to open it.
That's powerful stuff. And isn't there a certain age where their mind comes from very adaptable as a young individual, and then they grow up and become crystallized knowledge? Yeah. And does it become harder for someone then to have that open hand to learning?
Neuroplasticity in our brains does that to us.
Is there like an age that kind of happens?
No. It's pathways. There's neural pathways that you develop by habit. And there's a way of showing up and whatnot. We have learned through our modern day science and psychology that you can purposely new pathways in your brain. And so harder, 100%. When you're younger, you're more pliable. It is easier. Possible, yes. Easy, no. So yes. And that's why I guess when you have a growth mindset, you are always acquiring more. Yes, there's space to stabilize your foundation in order to lift off. It's not like you are constantly evolving and that there's no base. But the notion of learning, a friend of mine who always used to say, never take your learning hat off. There's always a learning opportunity. And that's growth for me. And that's why.
Because I've seen you're very much always... Because also, how do you keep up to date? I mean, is there a way to keep up to date through... Because now you're in this industrial psychology, so things are constantly... So how do you keep up to date with that? And do you have to have the growth mindset to always keep up to date in order to always be the best?
Yeah.
Right?
With time now, it is easy to rely on your past because it has brought you success.
Yes.
And so you can get comfortable in that and live a good life. You've heard me say this, you cannot get to an extraordinary destination through an ordinary way. So you got to add the extra. And so what is that extra? Is it discipline in the morning? Is it listening to podcasts?
Yes.
Is it making sure once a week you read? You've got to have those disciplines have got to be there. If you think you just going to be ordinary and boom, oh, geez, look at the extraordinary I've arrived. It doesn't work that way. That's nonsense. But it is purposeful, mindful, and deliberate people that end up in those spaces. And you've got to put it in there, and you've got to be learning. And I think for me, I am an encyclopedia of knowledge in the sense that I love just getting a breath of things and understanding, not being an expert, just an appreciation, but also knowing enough that I don't know. I'm not, I can't comment on it. I understand what the end state is going to be, but the intricate workings, I don't know.
Yes.
So please help me understand.
Right.
Some of the concepts are beyond me. I'm like, okay, cool. Can you dumb it down to a 5-year-old? Oh, okay, cool. But I've got to have that posture that says, I don't know. Let me go find out.
Yes.
If I don't know, let me find someone who can impart. Let me learn. Let me understand. But it's all towards growing, learning
and growing.
And yielding a better version of yourself, yeah.
I think I could read more books now after this. I'm like, time to go read more books, time to go get better at everything, actually. So
it's tougher now because you got a lot of things competing for your time, man.
Social media.
Yeah, and that's a dark side I don't like about it, because I watch people who cannot put their phones down. And you can't have a phone and a book. You can't meditate and a phone.
Yeah.
You can't running and so there are certain disciplines that you gotta say, hey, when I come back, the message will still be there. So let me put it away.
Yes.
I don't need to get it as it lands. And so those kind of things you've got, and each person is different, guys, and so don't feel that you need to mimic somebody else. Maybe to start off, to give you a head start, you start there and then kind of mold into your style and your own. So
Sure. And what about when it comes to your top three habits that you would say maybe you've that have taken you to the next level? Because first of all, you say if you want to live an extraordinary life, you have to put a bit of extra.
Yeah,
right?
you got to put
an
ordinary. Yeah, exactly.
So
for me, firstly, meditate. I find that the better version of me comes out when I have space to think.
Mm-hmm.
And that is preceded by meditation. Meditation, I don't mean hovering, because I think it's the connotations around it are quite out there. For me, it is quietening the mind. The mind, by design, thinks, and those thoughts do cloud your vision.
Mm.
And sometimes the art of silencing them in order to hear, in order to differentiate between the heart and the head, that quiet time. So that for me is definitely a must, those beach walks. The second one, I guess it's similarly, exercise, guys. Your body is the only thing that you own.
Preach.
You don't own a car, it's your body. If you do not exercise control over your body from what you eat, exercise in terms of your mind, your body. Now the two are linked because one is the head, but this is for me of essence. I have these annual medicals and whatnot, and the guy says to me, "How old do you want to be? Live?" I said, "Maybe 130. I don't know." He says, "Do you believe this body will take you there?" I go, "No." He says, "Okay, great. What do you need to do?"
Wow.
Beautiful.
So beautiful.
It's beautiful. Yeah? Like whatever you want to be, seeing yourself in the future.
Yeah.
Does my current state allow me to get there? If the answer is no, you got to change stuff.
Yeah.
And that's those honest discussions that you got to have within yourself. And that's your own personal journey, guys. I'm not talking here like putting on Insta day 155.
Yeah.
That's not it. In that walk, you're not looking for applause.
Yes.
It's for you.
It's for you because you know.
In terms of where you want to go, And I'm not the guys who are doing this stuff on social media. That's not what. That's no. That's not what my intent. Just so exercise your body.
Mm-hmm. Meditation, exercise,
and a hobby. I often one of the guys that I'm speaking to, I say to him, you've got to be as religious with creating space to exhale. Because life for me is an ebb and a flow. There's an intensity, which I've expressed, and you all get, and you talk about the beast. But there's a hobby that gets you to just decompress. I love art.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm a painter. I've always painted.
Sure.
And I've realized that when I'm in that space, I lose track of time.
Wow. Is that the only place you lose track of time?
I play guitar. That's when I'm in flow. Those are some of the things when I talked about.
Yes.
Could have been a guitarist. I could have been an artist. Could have played sport. Those are some of the activities. But there's certain things that I'm, inverted commas, religious about because they allow me to, because I'm always here as an individual internally. Though you never see it out externally because cool guy. I'm like, yeah. But inside, I'm driving myself hard, right? But I've got to create those times to decompress. And that's got to do with your habits, your hobbies, and where you express.
Where you can lose track of time.
Yes. You express, you're in flow, and next thing, 4 hours have lapsed, and you're like, oh, really? And for some people, and I met this interesting person who says, I do algebra to relax.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, really? What works for you? Go for it. He says, no.
You met my son.
No, I need to. Yeah, please. I got a guy I need you to talk to. But they've worked out that's the thing for them, For me, as I said, it's art, music, painting, where I just
decompress, lose track of time.
Lose.
Because everyone's got that thing.
Everyone's got that thing.
Yeah.
Put energy into that thing. It does. And it's fascinating, man, because you'll fixate over something, a problem you need to solve or whatever, and that decompression, doing something you enjoy, and suddenly
You've got it. You fixed the problem.
that's it.
Yeah.
Because that's in the things that you enjoy. More often than not, it comes then because you are zen.
Sure. So those are the 3 things. If you want to...
No, don't make a formula.
No. Let's just... 3 things that Israel...
Three things
that Israel does that he rates that work for him. Have a hobby, exercise, meditate.
Yeah.
Those are the 3 things, and I relate to that.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like I've got those 3 things. My exercise normally is my meditation. So
Okay.
like when I lose track of time is when I feel like I'm meditating. Like that
okay.
feeling, because I can actually feel like nothing else matters in the world at
that
point,
moment, yeah?
when I'm doing it, and I just smile and I say, if everything goes horribly when I check my phone or whatever,
Right there.
I do not mind.
Yeah.
'Cause
That's cool.
great.
That's
That's my
awesome.
Muay Thai for me, or that's my
Yeah,
my Muay Thai or surfing.
Okay,
which
surfing I can relate to. The kicking people, but I don't get. But anyway.
And I guess the last question is, you know, if there was one question that I could have asked you that I didn't, what do you think that question could have been?
You know how broad I am.
I know,
Jeez.
but just give it a think.
I would have thought. I don't know.
Sure, we're good.
Hey?
Yeah, we're pretty good at what we do then.
No, look. I mean, a question you could have asked.
Or something that you want to share with the world that you feel like that you want people to understand, know, to help them.
I will tell you this. You are enough. You have everything you need. That if so we've all, here's a human conditioning, man, that I guess doesn't serve us. You are born, you have a mother, you look up to that person for survival. You leave your home, you go to creche, there's a teacher. School, university lecturer. You step outside of that, there's a doctor, there is so your source of being who you are, you always see it as external to you. It's someone else in order, it's someone else. And that gets imprinted in you. And at times, it can leave you thinking that I do not have, and therefore everything for me to be, to survive, is outside. That's not true. I know your experience tells you that, but that's not true. Everything is in you. And when you start doing the work and unpacking some of that, for me, that's when you meet yourself, and that's where you find your extra, that's where you find your limitless, that's where you find, hey, if I just change my perspective here, and suddenly I can go extra further. It was bad at the time, but I'm no longer that person because I've evolved and I've changed. And I can look at that and think, thank God that happened, because now I am this. If it wasn't for... That's the reconciliation of work within you, because it is in you.
Yes.
That's the power of it for me. And so, yeah, if I would leave, that's the thing. In all aspects of life, actually. It sounds like, I don't know, modern day the pop psychology. It's not. It's not.
Yeah.
I can tell you for a fact, it's not.
Is it by understanding you're enough, that the confidence of what you can achieve and do is just...
Dude, if you go to an acorn and you go, I want to make a rainforest or a forest, you look at that acorn and you look at the forest and you go, no way. And you say to it, you're enough. Now go and die. Into the soil. It dies, and then it gets reborn. Over and over and over and over. That's you.
Yes! Wow.
That's it.
That's good stuff.
That's it, man. That's it.
Well, thank you, Israel, for coming. It was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, man.
You've taught me a lot so far, and I look forward to the next 2 years when we do this again.
Yeah, when I tell Zul how crappy I was. I'm looking forward to that too.
Awesome. Awesome.
Thanks for the invite, man.
Awesome.